Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Purpose Show, where women age 40 and over unlock their true calling, step into the career that is aligned with their purpose, and live the fulfilling life they are destined to live. Hello, I'm your host, Yannick Seid. And today, what I would like to talk about is your self-doubt and your confidence. Have you ever experienced self-doubt? Do you self-doubt sometimes? I sure do, once in a while. So if this is you, type yes. If you do experience self-doubt sometimes, type yes in the comments, in the chat. Thank you. Now, having self-doubt is not unusual. It's all right to experience it once in a while. What we want to avoid is to have chronic symptoms, chronic self-doubt, because it will hinder our well-being. It will hinder what we are capable of doing, and also a perception of ourselves, which will affect us. So let's talk about how to recognize symptoms of self-doubt so you know that they are present and you shake them off. You address them and overcome them. All right, so let's dive into it. So the first one is, we talked about this before, negative self-talk. It is very easy to beat on ourselves, to have negative thoughts about what we've done. So once in a while it happens, but usually what we say is, okay, this was a bad moment, a bad experience. What do I learn from it? We shift our perception of it. We don't dwell on it. That's a healthy thing to do. However, if you have chronic self-talk, it affects your perception of your word. So be mindful of that. We think about what we bring about, what we think we bring forward. We are telling our subconscious, and then you will manifest that. The subconscious, if we think of something, this is where it goes, and then conscious mind, self self-fulfilling prophecy. So be mindful of that. The next one uh, is that you might set a goal. Once you set the goal, you're telling yourself that you can't do it. So let's not do this. Let's recognize that and see how we can reframe it. Next one, my favorite, and I'm guilty of that myself, perfectionism. You set yourself such high expectations that you will not, or it will make it very difficult to achieve the goal. And also another thing is that we don't always recognize when we have accomplished something. We'll be dismissing it or dwelling on what went wrong instead of what we have achieved, what we have accomplished, because we want to seek perfection. We are human beings. It's not a perfect world. You might aspire to excellence, that's okay, but perfection, no. So that's a non-reasonable expectation on ourselves. Perfectionism. The next one is procrastination. Procrastinate often is an indication of self-doubt. We procrastinate doing something for fear of failure. So a lot of people think, and then again, negative talks, self-talk, that procrastination is laziness, but not really. It is often a symptom of a lack of confidence, of self-doubt. So if we don't do it, we won't fail, right? And another thing that procrastination makes us do or recognize this behavior, we'll make excuses why we don't do something. Or I will do this once I'm ready. Or I will do this once everything is in order and I have it all mapped out. Or, for example, it could be me. Oh, I won't do a live because my hair is not perfect. No, it doesn't have to be perfect. That is avoidance. That's the procrastination. It's because you have self-doubt about yourself. The confidence is not where it should be. Recognize that and then you deal with it. Um, the next one, overthinking, analyzing paralysis. We think over things over and over so much that in the end, we don't accomplish anything because we're paralyzed. We've analyzed it so much that probably all we can see is the roadblocks and we don't take a step forward. The next one, seeking constant approval. It's okay to ask approval, but when it's constant, okay, just take a minute. Do you always constantly seek approval to feel worthy? Because when one has constant need for approval, it could be an indicator that you have self-doubt and that you measure your worth by the approval of others. But no, there's only one of you and you are enough. So you do your best, you do what feels right for you, what is aligned, and that's what counts. Having approval of others for what you do or say or think is not an indication of your worth. So you have to own it, own who you are, and be good, okay with that. You don't need approval of others to feel worthy. Another one, and that's aligned with this, it's to compare yourself to others. There's nothing wrong with aspiring if somebody inspires you and you emulate them. That's one thing. But to compare yourself to others and measure your worth compared to what others do, that is not healthy. It's not an indication of what you're worth. So don't do that. All right. And if you notice that's what you do, take a step back. Take a step back and focus on what you do, who you are, versus comparing you to another person, because another person is another entity, it's another person. We are individuals, with each of us having our gifts and talents, our way of doing or thinking. That's okay. That's what makes us us. Fear of rejection. And that goes hand in hand with approval, right? We want people, it's a normal feeling as a human being to feel accepted. That's okay. But the fear of rejection will cause us to avoid being in situation, avoid being in social situation, avoid expressing ourselves. For example, you're at a staff meeting or you're in a group meeting somewhere, part of a group or an organization or volunteer organization you belong to, it doesn't matter, or even amongst your family members or relatives. You fear expressing something, expressing what you feel, what you think for fear of rejection. But you're cutting yourself short. Your thoughts, what you think, is worthy. If other rejects you, don't take it personally. They reject what you say, that's okay. They don't have to agree with you. But it's not an indication of your worth. All right? Next one, reluctance to take risk. And that's linked to the fear of failure. Staying on our comfort zone. It's comfortable because we know it. Even when it's uncomfortable, for example, I could be in a relationship, you're not in a very positive, you could be in a toxic relationship, and I have a fear to leave it and go to the unknown. What am I going to do? That's sometimes what holds us back. Or we are in a position at work that is not aligned with us or is toxic for whatever reason. It's not aligned with you, but you stay there anyway. and making excuse, but, you are here, fear to take a step into the unknown. It's scary. And when we have self-doubt, it holds us back. And when we hold back, we don't know what's on the other side. There could be other opportunities. And sometimes the opportunities present themselves, but we won't take them for fear of the unknown, to take a risk. There's always a risk when you do something that's not familiar. Staying on your comfort zone is not going to make you grow, give you other perspective, or resolve any issues that you have. Now, also self-doubt, did you know, also can manifest itself physically. Have you ever had a situation where you had a tightness in the pit of your stomach, or your throat was tightening? Have you ever felt that? If type yes if you ever have felt that. For example, I'll give you an example. Anytime I had to present, although when I step out, I'm fun, the anticipation of it, thinking, oh my gosh, I have to go on stage, I can feel first my stomach tightens, my throat tightens. Sometimes I have sweat pouring down. So what I do, and to avoid that, is I ground myself. And that's something I will discuss it later, but that is my self-doubt. And I shake it off. So now I've learned when these symptoms come, or I know where it's coming from, so I'll ground myself and they subside. Then the imposter syndrome. And that's linked to what we talked about when we do not acknowledge when we've done something well, only focus on what was negative. Well, the imposter syndrome is more like you are achieving something, but you don't feel worthy. You feel like you're not deserving, or you feel like, oh, it was luck of the draw. You don't give yourself credit for it. When you have self-doubt, you don't always, you have difficulty accepting when you've done something positive, when you've done something good, when you have achieved something. And when we have self-doubt, what happens is that because we are afraid to make a mistake, it's all linked together. Having self-doubt limits your ability to make decisions, or it may take a long time, or you don't even make a decision. You're frozen. So we all experience those symptoms at one time. I'm talking about when it's a chronic manifestation, a chronic symptom behavior that is problematic. To experience it once in a while, that's okay. You recognize it and you deal with it. You don't dwell on it. Problem is when it stops you from being you, because you doubt in yourself. You don't appreciate yourself, and you don't know your worth. So, having said that, let's recap what we've learned and how to recognize when self-doubt comes into play and what to do. So the first thing is, one of the things is you recognize your negative self-talk. Nip it. Reframe it into a positive statement. Perfectionism, there's no such thing. It's not a perfect world. We're human beings. We cannot be perfect. We can be excellent. So perfectionism will stop us from moving forward sometimes. Procrastination, when you notice that you procrastinate, go back. Next one, overthinking analysis paralysis. When you overthink, overanalyze, you're paralyzed, you don't move forward. Avoiding challenge, staying in your comfort zone is not in your best interest. It might make you lose great opportunities. Comparing yourself to others, You are you. There's only one of you. Don't compare yourself to others. You may emulate others that inspire you, but you're still you and you do it your way. And the fear of rejection. Not everybody will agree with what you say or who you are, and that's okay. Do not take it personally. You are worthy, you are enough, and be you. Deflecting compliments, except when you've done something well. Don't deflect it, don't minimize it. We're talking about reluctance to take risks, staying on our comfort zone. Also, we talked about the manifestation, the physical manifestation of when we experience self-talk. I talked about sometimes you have this awful feeling in your tummy, in your stomach, in the pit of your stomach, or you could feel your throat tightening. Physical manifestation is an indication of self-doubt. Be aware of it and address it. The imposter syndrome is also linked to taking a compliment, but imposter syndrome, when you don't acknowledge what you've accomplished, more so you discredit yourself, this is self-doubt. You don't feel worthy of what you've done, or you might attribute it to luck versus this is your accomplishment. Imposter syndrome. And the last one, the difficulty to make decisions. When we doubt ourselves, we don't want to take risks. And everything I've talked about is linked together. But ultimately, it will also lead you to have difficulty making decisions. So on that note, just take note of this. And when you recognize them, acknowledge those symptoms and address them to move forward. Having it once in a while is okay, but if it's something that you experience chronically, address it. So until next time, again on Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern, have a great week and take care of yourself. Bye for now.